Hey, do you remember when Seth Rogan triggered the largest case of digital espionage in cybercrime history and almost started a world war just so he could blow up Kim Jong-un? Wait, you don't? Well, strap in, because we're going to talk about the dumbest international incident since Trudeau wore a turban. No, not that one. This one. But first, let's talk about the premise of the interview. And note, there is no spoiler warning because it's an 8-year-old movie, and if you haven't watched it by now, that's on you. A journalist, Dave Skylark, played by James Franco, and his best friend and producer, Aaron Rappaport, played by Canadian pottery man Seth Rogan. Together they run a very popular late-night talk show. Upon learning that Kim Jong-un, supreme leader of North Korea, is a massive fan of their show, they just think, we should get him on our show. So they reached out to North Korea and secured an interview. Oh, that's the name of the movie. Oh! The CIA heard of this interview, so they decided to call Aaron and Dave and ask them to Kim Jong-un. When they arrive in Pyongyang, North Korea, Dave is welcomed by Kim, and he gaslights Dave into believing that he's actually a great man, basically saying that all the propaganda of North Korea was correct. But eventually the spell is broken with fake fruit. With the help of North Korea's now defected chief propagandist, they stage a coup mid-interview. The movie ends with them in a tank and launching a missile right at Kim. He's eviscerated into a blazing inferno while Katy Perry's firework plays in the background. The dictatorship was overthrown and democracy was integrated into society. All in all, it's a stupid ass movie, but it's a fun watch. But not for everybody. That's right, because North Korea was not happy. A North Korean spokesperson said that the creation of the movie was an act of terrorism, and that the release of the movie could start a war. Oh, I'm so scared. What you gonna do, cry about it? Nah. Instead, Sony Pictures, the producers of the interview, were subject to the largest case of digital espionage in modern-day cybercrime history. Yikes. Today's world is the most technologically dependent society in history. From just our phone, we can control our finances, share our personal information, and communicate with others around the world. We all like to think that we're safe from cybercrime until we get hit by it. In 2013, it was announced that Seth Rogan and Evan Goldberg were working together to make a comedic movie about Kim Jong-un. And the movie had a ridiculous premise, but apparently it was enough to piss off bitch baby Kim Jong-un. November 24th, 2014, employees of Sony Pictures were unable to access their computers due to malware issues. The malware was implemented by the Guardians of the Peace. The GOP is a faction of the Lazarus Group. Currently still operating, they are a branch of the North Korean government. Their whole job is to partake in cybercrime and other 4chan behavior. It is believed that they've taken almost $2 billion from the cybercrime. And this helps North Korea fund their more nefarious acts. So the Guardians of Peace had infiltrated into Sony's infrastructure, social media accounts, and a bunch of different other access points, and apparently they've just been hidden there for a year, gathering up information. Taking their data, leaking their emails, even from then chairperson, Amy Pascal. They prematurely released the plans for the upcoming Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies and the James Bond Daniel Craig movies. After leaking, they wiped the infrastructure and left without a trace. The hack cost Sony almost $1 billion in damages. From rebuilding the infrastructure to become more fortified, dealing with lawsuits, scrapped titles. But then finally, it was all over. The end. Psych! A month later, 2 days before the premiere, the GOP struck again. However, this time they didn't threaten with cybersecurity. They threatened with actual physical terrorism. The world will be full of fear. Remember the 11th of September 2001. We recommend you keep yourself distant from the places at the time. If your house is nearby, you'd better leave. Sony did not want to cause another worldwide disaster after what they did to Spider-Man 3. So they decided to pull the movie, take the $30 million loss, and walk away. But then our boy, Barry Obese, President Barack Obama, came in and basically told Sony Pictures to grow a pair of balls. Society cannot function in a world where a dictator halfway across the country can censor a movie in America just because he feels a little bit hurt by it. Because just like my ex, they're scared of confrontation, they decided they're gonna release the movie anyways. Not before being safe and re-editing the scene where they kill Kim Jong-un to make it a little bit less graphic. I'll let Seth Rogan talk about it.
This shot became the thing that was like unacceptable. Like of all the things in the movie, like if there was going to be war with North Korea based on something in the movie, it was going to be because of this shot. This became like the whole negotiation was like, how much of the head do you see? How much do you not see? Can we obscure it with fire? How long can it be on screen for? Like by far the thing that I've had the most discussion about in probably any one single part of any movie I've ever had anything to do with.
Then in December, the movie was released on Google Play and it went on to win every Oscar imaginable. The movie didn't really have a theatrical release, so it only grossed $6 million from theaters. But because of the media shitstorm that the movie generated, when it came on Google Play, everybody flocked in and bought it. It made $15 million of Google Play and is still one of the fastest and highest selling movies on the platform. Ultimately, they made enough just to break even on their $40 million venture. Analysts believe that without all the controversy, the movie would have been a $30 million loss. As you probably know, in today's world, not all crimes are prosecuted equally. That's why Brittany Griner, WNBA player, can blaze up all she wants here, but she just took a tiny little bit of ganja to Russia, and now she's in jail. Let's talk just a little bit about political science, the realest science there is. More specifically, let's look at international relations. It's the scientific study of the interaction between sovereign states. With all sciences, there are theories, and international relations, there is no exception. I want to talk about the theory of global constitutionalism. It's a school of thought that basically looks at international laws and their conception and imagining if all the laws came together and acted as a global constitution. And due to the seemingly lack of borders in the digital age, attacks can come from anywhere. And anything with an internet connection is vulnerable. Like this toaster. The United Nations is the most prolific international organization in the world, and they have the ability to implement the greatest change. The United Nations understands that cybercrime is an international crime, but they have not officially recognized it as an international crime, meaning prosecution is very difficult. Once recognized, criminals can face repercussions. The United Nations has been focused on creating a team that can counter the terrorists. They're trying to build the right infrastructure, educate the public about safety, and overall preventing cybercrime from taking place. Ever since computers started getting into the hands of regular people, they needed something to do before Netflix and porn were invented. So some of them were utilizing computers to do illegal activities, kind of like the Matthew Broderick movie War Games. In 1997, the Council of Europe came together to create the International Treaty on Cybercrime, holding conventions to enact laws, and more importantly, making sure these rules become standardized throughout the entire globe. As we all know, terrorism is forbidden by the Geneva Conventions. While this specific case was not physically violent, the threat of violence by the GOP is enough to fit the modern day definition of terrorism, especially when dealing with one of the biggest media and technology companies in the entire world. Historically, the repercussions for terrorism are an endless amount of sanctions and possibly war. This attack did not warrant war because no violence actually took place, just a threat. Much like James Harden in a strip club, they made it rain sanctions, 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 baby! That was not funny. I apologize. The EU has stopped them from grabbing oil and rocket fuel all the way to trading for gold and other precious gems. The International Court of Justice recognizes North Korea's cyber attack as a violation of Article 2, specifically the paragraph that prohibits any use of force. And in this case, you can constitute a computer as a weapon due to the detrimental damage that they can cause to people nowadays. But there is an issue, however. Because the use of force was in a cyber medium, they didn't really infringe on any treaties or international laws, which kind of adds on to my idea that the laws today are a little bit too outdated. And the GOP wiped out all tracks of them being there. So there's not really much for them to be prosecuted on, which makes it very difficult if you're trying to pursue this in the ICC. But as of May 2022, the UN has officially announced that they're finally working on a treaty for cybercrime. And it is widely believed that the North Korea attack in 2014 is a big catalyst for this cybercrime treaty finally coming through. The world has evolved into one that is much more digital than ever before. It's only right that the laws are evolving in tandem to protect us.